Welcome to the Cave. Now, for those of you that maybe this is your first time here, or maybe you don't attend this church, you may wonder, where does the name the Cave come from? So let me just kind of explain this, because it's not just kind of a cool name. It actually has a tremendous spiritual significance to it. First of all, let me give you just a couple of examples. First of all, the Bible says in Psalm 24, verse 3, "Who may ascend into the hill of the Lord?" Now, another way of saying that is, who may ascend into the cave of the Lord? So these cave talks are all going to be about meeting with God. We're going to learn what it is to be not just a Christian, not just somebody that has a label, but what it is to be a breakthrough believer that can actually shake a nation and shake a generation. That's what we're going to find out about in the cave. Now, there's another couple of interesting things about the cave, and maybe if we can just cue up the first slide. I just want you guys to see this. This is from 1 Samuel chapter 22. So David left Gath and escaped to the cave of Adullam. So here's this cave. Soon his brothers and all his other relatives joined him there. Then others began coming, men who were in trouble or in debt, who were just discontented, until David was the captain of about 400 men. Okay, now let me read it to you in a slightly different version. This is going to be from the Message. It says, so David got away and escaped to the cave of Adullam. When his brothers and others associated with his family heard where he was, they came down and joined him. Not only that, but all who were down on their luck came around. Losers and vagrants and misfits of all sorts. David became their leader. There were about 400 in all. Now, what exactly is the story? Now, I mean, the Message Bible I kind of like because it's a little bit more explicit. These guys were losers, okay? But what happened was, they came as losers. Now, I'm not calling any of you guys losers. We love you guys. You guys are awesome. But what was amazing about this particular cave is when all these losers and these just people that were, down on their luck, things weren't going very well for them, they didn't really have any direction for their life, they kind of show up at this cave with David. What's cool is that they came in one way and they left a very different way. Because if you read later on in the Bible, you find that these men became mighty men of valor. That means that they essentially were King David's right-hand guys. They were the best soldiers, the best warriors in the entire land. They came in just ordinary guys, nothing special about them. If anything, maybe as far as the world was concerned, they had nothing going for them. When they left the cave, they were the best of the best of the best. That is, in a nutshell, the vision of the cave. You come in as just nice young people, youth, young adults. We have a great time. We're going to go out later. We're going to have a bite to eat. We're going to do all those things. You come in one way, but you leave a warrior. How many know it's one thing to talk the talk? It's another thing to have beliefs, like you can believe in God or you can believe in Jesus. That's one thing. But it's another thing to act it out. Now, I think that the best introduction to the cave is something, actually, it's a vision that Shyla had years ago. Now, some of you, if you guys have been here for a few years, you may have heard about some of this vision, but I know that there's probably a lot of you here that have never heard this vision. So what I want you to do right now, I just kind of want you to open up your hearts and just listen to this, because if you catch this, this is the vision that God has for your life.
It's actually about, I don't know when I had it, I think it's about almost 9-10 years ago, and I'm not really one to have dreams or see visions or anything like that, but about 10 years ago, I kind of have to close my eyes because then I can see it, if that makes sense. But it was like this, it was a dark place, and it wasn't hell, but it was a very dark place, and there was like demon type of figures, whatever, like really, really high. We did a drama on this actually not too long ago, but there was like demon type of figures, like really, really high. And there was many, many of them in this entire camp. And that's what it was. It was a camp. And they were really high, and all of them had guns, like machine guns, you name it. And huge, huge, huge machines that they were holding, literally pointing at the people or whatever that were down below, kind of guarding the place, I guess. And the people down below, you couldn't really tell. There's even people because it was so dark, but there was like these dim lights or whatever. So anyway, so all these people were on the ground and everything. And again, it wasn't hell. And I'll get to the symbolism in a minute, but they were all like on the ground and everything. And they were, what really caught my attention was I was like in front, and I could see this woman, and I could identify to her. And it's like I was watching it, but I was identifying to what she was going through. And they had these scars, and they had all these like they were like beaten up and all these scars and everything, like on their faces and bruises and everything. I mean, they looked disgusting. They absolutely looked like they were mauled, you know. And we tried to depict that when we did this drama, and a lot of people maybe had a hard time looking at the actors because we did our best to make them look really, really bad. Not even close to what, you know, Ms. Bream was, but anyway. But what really caught my attention was, and the woman that the kind of lady that I was beside, she was abused in many different ways, and I mean, she was done, like done. And these bruises and these scars and everything, they represented different situations or whatever that these people have gone through. Some of them were actual bruises, but actually represented different things, different situations, different hurts, different pains that different people have gone through, different bondages that they were in. And these people, these demonized people, were keeping everybody in these scars, in these bondages. Does everyone understand? Mm-hmm. And what happened was, and all of a sudden, and then I looked up, and there was like these lights literally coming into the place, and I mean not lights like on the earth, like not like these, like I mean bright lights. I mean that's pretty bright, but like really annoying bright. But I'm talking like bright, and you could tell that these lights were not like earthly lights. They were like there are lights that you know you wouldn't see here. It's like a godly type, and these lights were literally coming in, and they weren't angels, and it wasn't God, although the light obviously was the Lord, but in the light, and as they were walking in, were these figures. And they were men and women of God. They were sons and daughters of God. And they literally walked, they didn't walk, they marched into the place, and the lights were getting brighter and brighter, and I mean, you could barely look, and they were getting brighter and brighter, and literally piercing and exposing every darkness, every piece of bondage in that place. And these demonized people were literally pointing their guns, and literally at their heads, and they were like ready to kill, ready to fire. And these people walked in, and they didn't care that their lives were at stake. They didn't care. They didn't even look back to see what was going on. They just kept on going forward and forward and forward and getting closer and closer to the prize. And then they finally would kneel down and take these people that are on the ground and literally throw them over their shoulders and march them out of this place, march them out of the camp. And they didn't care who was around. They knew who they were in God. They were confident in who they were in God. They were bold as lions. They were full of God's love. They were full of His compassion. And they totally were living the extraordinary life. And they marched out and literally were taking out majority of the people out of this camp. And this camp represents like the bondages that the devil, the enemy, has this generation in. But God is raising up warriors that literally will take their place, right? And right. Know who they are in God. Right. People that are 13, people that are 14, people that are 21, 36, 92, whatever. Know who you are in God. Do what God's called you to do, and literally march in. Take these prizes. Take these people of gold, and literally throw them on your shoulders. Tell them who God is. Witness, right? And march them out of this camp of bondage. And that's what we're called to do.
That's the vision of how God sees every one of you. But, if I can say this. Those people in those vision, they didn't just get that way just by showing up at youth group on Friday night.
No.
Right? There's going to be...
It's not an overnight thing.
That's right. This is what the cave is about.